Welcome back, everyone. This is week 30 of the 2025 Bluewater Auto Restoration Podcast. This information is presented by Bluewater Auto Restoration, and we release new deep dives every Saturday morning. Today, we're taking a deep dive into the surprisingly intricate world of gas tank restoration. You know, that part hiding under your classic car or truck that you probably don't think about too much. Okay, let's unpack this a bit. Have you ever walked past your pride and joy and caught that faint whiff of fuel? Or maybe spotted a mysterious dark puddle forming underneath it? Chances are you might be looking at a common, but often overlooked issue, a compromised gas tank.
Yeah, what's fascinating here is just how vital the fuel tank really is for the whole vehicle, and yet it's so easily ignored, right, until, bam, a problem surfaces. It's definitely more than just a metal box. It's a critical component, often irreplaceable, really, and it demands proper attention. Ignoring it isn't just about a little leak, you know. It can hit your fuel economy, even safety.
That's a really crucial point. So let's get into the why. Why do these tanks fail? It often starts sneakily from the inside out. See, over time, water collects in the tank. It can get in there from, condensation, temperature changes, or even just bad gas sometimes. And that water settles, creating the perfect conditions for rust. You don't see it happening, the first clues. Often that telltale smell of fuel, especially when you fill up, or maybe even when you take a turn and the fuel sloshes. Eventually, that rust eats right through, creating tiny pinholes, or worse, bigger holes. And then you've got those undeniable leaks.
And that leads us right to the dilemma, doesn't it? For classic car owners especially. When that original tank fails, just replacing it seems obvious, but it's often not that simple. Aftermarket tanks, they often get called poor quality or generic. And the thing is, that usually means you're buying a bit of a project, not just a part. You might have to modify them quite a bit, maybe even tweak your car's mounts just to make them fit. It can be a hassle. Then there's finding a used one. Sounds good, maybe save some money, but really, you might just be kicking the can down the road. It could have the same rust issues brewing and you're back to square one in a few years. So it really raises the question, if replacement isn't always the best path for originality and long-term reliability, what can we do to save these tanks?
That's the big question, right? If buying new or used is tricky, what are the options? Well, for a lot of folks, the answer is rolling up their sleeves, restoring it yourself. This DIY approach, it lets you keep that original part. And for classic car people, it's a huge deal. Preserves the history.
Absolutely. And if you're thinking about going the DIY route, the first steps are super critical, and safety is paramount. First up, you absolutely have to drain all the fuel, every last bit. Then carefully get the tank out of the vehicle. And I really can't stress this enough. Safety gear. You're dealing with leftover fuel, strong chemicals, heavy-duty gloves, proper eye protection. These aren't suggestions, they're essential. And ventilation. Make sure you're working somewhere with good airflow because those fumes are serious.
Right. So once it's out, safe and empty, the cleaning starts. Inside first. You begin with a good water rinse just to flush out loose gas residue, any big chunks of debris. But here's the clever part. Mechanical agitation. You actually put things like nuts, bolts, maybe a bit of light chain inside the tank. Then as you slosh the cleaning solutions around, those bits bounce off the walls, scraping away the stubborn rust and sludge. Kind of like a mini internal scrubbing. For the cleaners, you'll want rust removers, something like a Bonpo Rust works well, and then etching solutions like AquaClean to prep the metal. After all that, it's rinse, rinse, rinse. You keep going until the water comes out totally clear. That tells you the debris and chemicals are gone. Then drying. This is absolutely key. Air dry, hair dryer, heat gun, leaf blower even, whatever it takes. Every bit of moisture has to be gone or the sealant won't stick properly later.
Okay, so the inside is getting clean. Next up, deal with any leaks on the outside. And you need to do this before internal sealing. It's fundamental. You've got to find every single leak point, even tiny pinholes. A good trick is to fill the tank with water, carefully watch the outside, and mark any spot that gets wet. Once you know where they are, sand the area around each leak right down to bare metal. Clean it, degrease it thoroughly. Then you use a petroleum-resistant patching compound. Something like Tank Weld from JB Weld is good for this.
Right.
You knead the putty until it's one solid color, then press it firmly into and over the hole. It cures pretty fast, maybe an hour or so. Solid patch. Thinking bigger picture, patching the outside first is just crucial. It makes sure that the internal sealer, your main defense, doesn't just seep out through those holes before it cures. Saves you sealant, saves you hassle.
Exactly. Okay, so external patches are solid. The tank is totally, completely dry, like bone dry.
Bone dry, absolutely.
Right. Then you move to sealing the inside. You'll need specialized stuff for this, like POR 15 US standard fuel tank sealer, or maybe KBS Gold Standard tank sealer. The process involves sealing up all the openings on the tank except one, your fill hole, basically. You pour the sealer in carefully, and this part takes some finesse. You slowly rotate the tank, turn it gently every direction, coat all the inside surfaces evenly. You want a nice uniform layer, no puddles in the corners. After rotating for a few minutes, you carefully drain out any excess sealer. And here's where you need patience. Real patience. The curing time is long, usually 96 hours, so 4 days, before you can put fuel back in. I know waiting 4 days sounds like torture when you want to get driving, but it's worth it for a good lasting seal.
Right, and once that internal work is done and cured, you might think about the exterior finish for your DIY job. It's not just about looks, though it helps. It adds another layer of protection. You could just paint it, spray cans or brush it on after everything else is done. But for extra durability, especially against road grit and moisture, using a rust reformer primer first, then hitting it with a rubberized undercoating, that's a really solid approach. Makes it look finished, sure, but it really boosts its resistance to outside corrosion. Protects all that hard work you just did.
Yeah, that makes sense. Now, doing it yourself, that gives huge satisfaction, maybe save some money too. But sometimes, let's be honest, a tank might just be too far gone for a home fix. Or maybe you just want the peace of mind of a professional guarantee. That's when you look at professional gas tank restoration services. They've got tools and processes that go way beyond a typical garage setup.
Oh, absolutely. Professionals can offer some really comprehensive solutions. One common method, often done at radiator shops, is called boiling the tank. Basically, they submerge it in a strong acid solution. It strips out all the loose rust, the sludge, any gummy residue, leaves the inside incredibly clean. Then you have these highly specialized, often patented processes like gas tank renew is a well-known one. That's top-tier professional work. What they can do differently is things like sandblasting the entire inside in a proper blast room. Gets rid of 100% of rust and burnt, not just the loose stuff. They might drill access holes to get everywhere. They can pull dents out properly. Then they weld up all the holes, any rotten spots, usually with heliarc welding. That's a very precise, strong weld. Creates a permanent seal. After that, they pump in an internal coating for total coverage, apply a durable external coat too, and then they bake it in a convection oven. That cures the coatings, bonds them chemically, super durable. The claims are pretty bold, like nothing comes close to the quality, and they often offer a lifetime warranty, albeit limited. It's a world away from just pouring in a slosh coat kit yourself, which honestly can sometimes fail, lift up, and clog your fuel system later on. That's a headache you don't want.
Wow, yeah, that sounds like a completely different level of repair and confidence in the result. And professionals, they often do more than just fix leaks, right? They're kind of a one-stop shop. They might sell new tanks and accessories if restoration isn't feasible. They can rebuild or sell new sending units, the part that tells your fuel gauge what's happening. Getting an accurate reading is important. And for bigger vehicles, like trucks or RVs, they might sell and install extra capacity fuel tanks. Great for extending range. Plus, for the performance crowd, they can modify tanks too. Maybe add a sump for racing, stops fuel surge in corners. Or they can integrate a fuel pump right into the tank for EFI conversions on older cars. That's a popular upgrade these days.
Exactly. And it's not just cars either. These pros can handle tanks from almost anything. Boats, motorhomes, commercial trucks, motorcycles, ATVs, even heavy construction equipment or those big 18-wheeler rigs. It's a pretty specialized skill set, but it's vital across so many different types of vehicles and machinery.
Okay, now here's where it gets really interesting, some of the finer points, the nuances you might run into. Because sometimes it's not just about fixing the leak, it's about making an old tank work with, say, newer parts or systems.
That's very true. You run into some interesting challenges, like what if the original stock filler neck is missing or damaged and you can't buy a new one? Professionals might need to fabricate a custom one or figure out how to adapt an aftermarket neck, which takes skill. Another common thing is adapting fuel level senders. Maybe you have an old Ford with a 6-bolt sender, but modern replacements are 5-bolt. Well, there are adapter rings and know how to make that conversion work, letting you use newer, more reliable senders in an old tank. It's about bridging that gap.
That makes sense. And okay, you've got your beautifully restored tank ready to go back in. What about hooking it up? Fuel lines, safety. I know one thing people mention is using stainless steel braided hose, especially if the line runs near the exhaust.
Oh, absolutely critical. That braided hose over hot exhaust pipes is essential. It prevents heat from damaging the fuel line itself. Heat damage can cause leaks, obviously dangerous, or it can cause fuel to vaporize in the line vapor lock, which will stall your engine.
Yep.
So yeah, using the right materials for fuel lines, routed safely, that's a non-negotiable safety step.
Good tip. And throughout this whole process, from start to finish, Inspection seems key.
Constant inspection. You can't overstate it. When you first take the tank out, you're looking closely for all the problem areas. After cleaning, get a bright flashlight in there, check every nook and cranny inside, make sure all the rust is truly gone. And after patching, water test again. Make absolutely sure every single leak, even the tiniest weep, is sealed before you put that internal sealer in. You know, critical thinking is vital here. You have to constantly check your own work, question if it's truly fixed, truly ready for the next step. Be thorough.
Right, so we've covered a lot of ground here. From identifying that first whiff of fuel, all the way through the detailed steps of DIY restoration, the cleaning, the patching, the sealing, and then into the advanced world of professional services, like the renew process and tank modifications. It definitely takes precision, patience, a good eye. But the result, you save an original part, often make it better than new, and get potentially decades more life out of it. You're really breathing new life into a vital piece of your vehicle.
Exactly. So what's the takeaway here for you listening? Maybe it's not just about plugging a leak. It's about the knowledge you gain, understanding how things work. It's the satisfaction, too, of doing it right, whether yourself or choosing the right pro. And it's about ensuring the longevity of your vehicle by understanding the why behind what we discussed. It's an investment, really.
We certainly hope this deep dive gave you a solid roadmap for gas tank restoration. For more detailed info, remember to check out BlueWaterAutoRestoration.com. And of course, you can find all our deep dives on Spotify, Google Music, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, or SoundCloud. Thanks so much for joining us, and we'll catch you next time for another deep dive.